Hello and welcome back. You're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. Members of the Foreign Affairs and Development Committees voted on the finalists of the 2025 Sakharov Prize for Freedom of Thought. Polish-Belarusian journalist Andrzej Poczobut and Georgian journalist Mzia Amaglobeli are among the nominees. Poczobut and Amaglobeli have been nominated under the joint category of imprisoned journalists fighting for your freedom and ours. The other two finalists are journalists and humanitarian aid workers in Palestine and all conflict zones, represented by the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate, the Red Crescent and URWA, and the Serbian students who have been protesting corruption since November 2024 and continued to do so despite a government crackdown. The protests erupted following the collapse of Novi Sad train station canopy, which killed 16 people. The winner of the prize will be selected by the Conference of Presidents, which includes European Parliament President Roberta Metsola. The award ceremony will take place on Tuesday, December 16, 2025, in Strasbourg. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Russia launched over 300 drones and 37 missiles overnight against Ukraine. He also said that Moscow used Shahed drones carrying cluster munitions and launched repeated strikes in order to injure firefighters who were restoring damaged facilities.
Last night brought strikes against our people, our energy sector, and our civilian infrastructure. Russia launched more than 300 attack drones and 37 missiles, a significant number of them ballistic, against Ukraine. Infrastructure in the Vinnytsia, Sumy, and Poltava regions came under attack. In the Chernihiv region, the city of Nizhyn was struck, the post office was damaged, and one person was wounded. In the Kharkiv region, the enemy targeted critical infrastructure and a state emergency service department. There are wounded. Recovery efforts are underway everywhere. Emergency services are working. And there is confirmation that the Russians are using double-tap tactics, attacking with Shaheds carrying cluster munitions and launching repeated strikes to injure firefighters and energy workers who are restoring damaged facilities.
If everybody would do the same, we could really end this war, said the EU's top diplomat Kaja Kallas about the bloc's sanctions against Russia when asked by TVP World's Angela Skujins whether the United States needs to get serious about sanctioning the Kremlin.
If everybody would do what we have already done when it comes to sanctions and pressure on Russia, I think we would be in a different place. Really, that's why we call on all allies to do the same. We see, for example, that the sanctions on Shadow Fleet are really having a huge effect on Russia. We see their economy is not doing well, their inflation is very high, their national funds are almost completely depleted, and they don't get access to finance, so they are running into a place where they have to make some very difficult choices. So if everybody, all our like-minded partners would do the same, we could really end this war and end this killing.
Ahead of the Friday meeting between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy, it still remains to be seen whether Washington will supply Kyiv with Tomahawk missiles. In an interview with TVP World, former U.S. Ambassador to Poland Daniel Fried said that although no weapon alone can be a true game changer in times of war, Tomahawks could really make a difference in Ukraine.
No single weapon is a game changer, but cumulatively, modern weapons can help change the balance at the margin, and it is at the margin where wars are sometimes decided. So I think Tomahawk missiles would enable Ukraine to strike at deeper Russian strategic targets. I think they would do so. The Russians clearly care about this because they've been issuing their usual threats of terrible retaliation if the U.S. goes ahead with sending Ukraine Tomahawks. We will see what Trump decides, but clearly we have the Russians' attention. And Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that the Russians had better negotiate in earnest, or else the U.S. would indeed send additional weapons systems to Ukraine.
On Wednesday, the U.S. president said that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared that his country will no longer purchase oil from Russia. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump also said that Vladimir Putin could make a settlement for peace with Ukraine.
This is a war that should have never started, but it's a war that Russia should have won in the first week, and they're going into the fourth year. And I want to see it stop. So I was not happy that India was buying oil. And he assured me today that they will not be buying oil from Russia. That's a big stop. Now I got to get China to do the same thing. And all we want from President Putin is stop this. Stop killing Ukrainians and stop killing Russians, because he's killing a lot of Russians. Again, it doesn't make him look good. It's a war that he should have won in 1 week, and he's now going into his 4th year. That does not make this big so-called war machine look good. But he could make a settlement. We're willing to settle. I thought we had a deal. The hatred of the two leaders is very, it's an obstacle.
Thomas Rose, a close ally of U.S. President Donald Trump, has officially been sworn in as the new American ambassador to Poland, according to government officials. Trump nominated Rose for the position in February. Rose received the endorsement of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee last week and was officially appointed by the State Department on Tuesday. We congratulate Ambassador-designate Rose as he prepares to represent the U.S. President in strengthening the U.S.-Poland alliance with one of our closest and most trusted partners, the U.S. Embassy in Warsaw wrote on X. A longtime right-wing pundit and media executive, Rose served as editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post and held senior roles in American broadcasting. He also advised former Vice President Mike Pence and is known for his pro-Israel stance. As climate change opens up new trade routes in the Arctic and Russia's shadow fleet is increasingly threatening the security of Western nations from the sea, the eyes of the world are turning to the north. In fact, several dozen Western officials and analysts have gathered in Iceland for the Arctic Circle Assembly to discuss these pressing challenges. Our very own correspondent Kazimierz Łysiak, who is in Reykjavik, has more.
Eyes of the world are turning to the north. US President Donald Trump has expressed multiple times that he would like to acquire Greenland, but just off the coast of Greenland there is another island, Iceland, where we are right now. And here, the Arctic Circle Assembly, a big forum gathering global leaders, officials and analysts, is taking place right now. We have here some top NATO military brass. We also have the Foreign Minister of Denmark, Deputy Defense Ministers of Norway, Italy and Poland, who gathered here to discuss the most pressing challenges, like climate change, but also the security of the entire region. With Russian provocations from the infamous Shadow Fleet wreaking havoc across European countries, the security of trade routes and the sea is especially important to the NATO alliance. And Iceland is a perfect spot for NATO to have its monitoring missions. It's located right between Greenland and the UK, so it's a perfect spot for NATO to have its reconnaissance missions. Now, throughout the day, TVP World will be bringing you the latest from Arctic Circle Assembly, including some very interesting interviews, so be on the lookout for those throughout the day. From Reykjavik, Kazimierz Łysiak, TVP World.
On Thursday, the French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu faced and survived his first vote of no confidence by hard-left France Unbowed and is set to face one more later today by the National Rally. The two parties do not hold enough seats to topple Lecornu's government on their own, but the Prime Minister could be ousted if the Socialists and others on the left join forces with them. On Tuesday, Lecornu announced the suspension of the proposal to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64 in a strategic move to prevent the collapse of his fragile minority government. Following a week of political upheaval, the newly reappointed Prime Minister told the National Assembly that the reform, one of President Emmanuel Macron's flagship initiatives, would be shelved until after the 2027 presidential election. The president of the European Commission wrapped up her Western Balkans tour in Serbia. As she visited all the countries working to secure EU accession, Ursula von der Leyen delivered some very important messages to Belgrade, including probably a concrete deadline for a change in attitude to be seen. Nicola Ciurcin, the president of the Independent Teachers Union, told TVP World.
She said she will see President Vučić in Brussels in a month. So it was a very important visit. The first address, she talked about difference between autocracy and democracy. It was a very clear message. She also talked about that democracies must allow the people to protest peacefully and not to be badgered and to pressured about it. She also said that there is a solution for gas problems that Serbia will face if there is no more gas arrangement with Russia. And I think one of the most important things she did, this is the only country in the Western Balkans, she met with the civil society representatives. So it was not only with the government, but also with the civil society as a formal meeting. And these were very, very important messages.
Finnish Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen has clashed with Georgian officials after she attended an anti-government protest in Tbilisi. Valtonen traveled to the country in her capacity as chair of the OSCE, an intergovernmental body focused on security, elections, and human rights issues.
During her visit, the Finnish minister met with her Georgian counterpart. Later on Tuesday, she took to social media to post a video taken near a protest outside the parliament building, where she spoke in defense of freedom of speech and assembly. Valtonen was scheduled to meet with the Georgian prime minister, but the meeting was scrapped, with Tbilisi saying it was due to Valtonen's, quote, participation in an illegal rally. Georgia has been hit by a wave of demonstrations amid a rapid decline in democratic standards in the country.
And so this would be all the latest news for now. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Klaudia Czerwinska, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World for our midday report at 2 p.m. CET. So I'll see you there.